for your coil mandala, each of you will receive a bag of clay. That clay should be more than enough for you to work with for the project. If you happen to need more clay, you can always ask and I can give you a little bit more. But what you get should be enough. For this, you will be creating your own slab. Okay? So using the rolling pin and the guide sticks, like in the demo you watched, you'll be creating your slab, and then I will have circle templates for you to cut out your shape. Okay? Your mandala will be a little bit larger than the examples at your tables, but they do shrink, so they end up being that size. Okay, so we're not working huge. Okay? So once you create your slab, the first thing you need to do is put your name on it. Okay, so you can either use your maker's mark, stamp it in, or you can go ahead and using a pin tool, you can, carve in your name. Okay, so that should always be the first thing you do is your name. From there, you'll be able to start working on your piece. Okay. So when working, you will be working with all of the coils. Okay? So I like to pre-make a bunch of coils and then create designs out of them. If you just make one coil, make a design. Make one coil, make a design. It's going to take a lot longer. But if you kind of mass produce your coils, it'll make it a little bit faster. Okay? So for making coils, okay, it's pretty basic. You take a little bit of clay, okay, you can pinch it into kind of a cylinder shape, and then on the tabletop, okay, you're just rolling it back and forth with your palm. Okay? You want to make sure that you're letting the clay fully rotate. If you only do a little bit, it's going to end up flattening on one side. So you want to make sure that the whole coil is rotating. Okay? And as I'm doing that, I'm kind of moving my hand back and forth, and that's what helps elongate it. Okay? You can also use two hands. So if you're working with the longer coil, you can kind of work from the inside and go outward. Okay? Depending on the design look you want, you can have your coils thicker or thinner. Okay? It just varies on how much you roll them. Okay? If you roll them a little bit, they'll be thicker. If you kind of keep going, they'll end up thinner and thinner. It's important to not overwork your coils. Okay? The clay dries quickly, okay? Especially in the winter when the heat's on. Okay? Clay's gonna dry out pretty fast. Okay? So I'm not overthinking it, I'm not overworking it, I'm just creating my coils. Okay? If you do see your clay starting to dry out, you can grab some new clay, or you can spritz it with a little bit of water. But as long as you're kind of working quickly and not overworking the clay, you should be in good shape. Okay? So I've got a bunch of coils pre-made, and then I will start talking about some of the different coil style options. Okay? So the horizontal is our most basic coil. Okay, that is just the coil on its own. Okay, nothing fancy about it, it just is. Okay, so this is really nice for, creating borders. Okay, things. And then from there, other designs can fit into those spaces. So think of them as almost frames. Okay, so you can definitely utilize the regular horizontal like that. With the horizontal coils, you can create some patterns. Okay, so you can have vertical pattern or kind of a vertical horizontal pattern. Okay, so with those, you have your coil and you're just chopping it up into smaller pieces. And then you are just laying them one next to the other, like so. If you want, you know, the vertical and horizontal, okay, then you just lay your pieces the other way and then back and forth. Craftsmanship is still going to be very important, okay? So I suggest trimming your edges just so everything is nice and clean, okay? So that'll give you a nice straight edge versus, you know, this kind of jagged, uneven edge, okay? With the vertical, horizontal pattern, this you would kind of build on top of your slab, okay, because each piece individually will have to be slipped and scored. Okay, you can't just kind of make it and then plop it on. Okay, everything is going to have to be slipped and scored. Other options with the regular coil is you can create a figure 8. Okay, so just by, you know, looping it, you can create figure 8, and then maybe in between you can add little accents of little balls of clay. Okay. You can take the coil and create a donut shape. Okay. So it's a circle. Okay. But what's nice about this is you can take that circle, turn it into a water drop, or you can turn it into a triangle, okay, or a square. Okay. So just from that simple shape, you can alter it and change it into having a lot of different overall looks. Okay. Let's see. Another nice thing that you can do with just the regular ropes of clay is creating spirals. Okay, so there's a lot of different spiral options. We have our basic spiral. You can do a double spiral, an S curve, which is kind of a back and forth spiral. Okay. With all the spirals, you start from the center of it. Okay, so just kind of curling the coil onto itself, okay, and it creates that snail's shell, okay, like so. Okay. With the spirals, this is typically when you might start to see your clay cracking a little bit if it's a little too dry. If you see that, you can just put a little bit of water on your finger, okay, and smooth it out. The double spiral, okay, you're working kind of from both ends, okay, turning the clay inward, okay, so spiral on one side, spiral on the other, okay, so that gives you that double. Then we have our S curve, okay, so this one, the spiral starts on the top on one side, okay, and then spirals from the bottom on the other side. So it starts to look a little like a scroll. So spirals, but a lot of different varieties they have with those. See. Another one we have is folded. So the folded is where the clay zigzags back over onto itself. So with this one, kind of bending the clay, and this is another instance where you might see your clay starting to crack a little bit if it's a little too dry. Okay. We'll get that. What's nice about this is you can have some variety. So you could have some sections be a little bit taller, others that are smaller. Okay. And that can give you a totally different look. It's still the same technique, but you just get a different look overall. Okay. And then from there, you can fill in, gaps with other designs, with little balls of clay to kind of fill that out. Let's see, then we have arches. Okay, so with arches, it's similar to the vertical in pattern where you're using multiple coils. Okay, but for this, you're creating kind of this upside down U shape and creating arches. Okay, so it starts to look like a rainbow. Okay, this would be another example of, taking a fettling knife and trimming the base just so everything is nice and even. Okay, because that craftsmanship is key. So all of these are kind of utilizing one coil at a time to kind of create the design. What you can do is take 2 coils, okay, and create a twist. Okay, so I'm just going to pinch on one end and then twist my coils together. So think of it like taking 2 streamers and twisting them together to create that design. Okay? Depending on how tightly you twist, okay, you can have different effects. Okay? And then if you take 3 coils, you can create a braid. Okay, so think of this just like braiding hair. So if you don't know how to braid, let me know and I can teach you. But you're taking the 3 pieces of coil and braiding them. Like so. And then, last but not least, we have weaved. Okay, so this one is a little bit more complex. This one uses multiple coils that are working vertically and horizontally. So I'm just laying my coils vertically, and I'm going to take another one, okay, and it kind of loops over and under. And then for the second row, it's going to do the opposite. So it'll be under, over, under, and over. So it's like weaving a basket. Okay? So you just continue that pattern over, under, and then vice versa for the next row, the next row, the next row. So, any questions? Okay. So I definitely suggest, pre-making a number of your designs and kind of making them in bulk. Okay, so you are starting off from the middle and working your way out. Okay, so whatever you decide for your center row section is fine, but then from there, if I want to do the horizontal or vertical, I would just make multiples to create that. If I wanted to do arches, I would make multiple arches to then add on top. But with everything, you have to slip and score. And that's going to be the most important part, is slipping and scoring. So using the fork, or you can use a fettling knife or the pin tool. You want to make sure that you slip and score all the things, okay? If you don't, they will fall off. I can guarantee that. Okay, they might not fall off right away, but definitely as they start drying or when they're fired in the kiln, okay, things will pop off. Okay? So slip, score, press it down. Okay, so my next row. Slip, score, attach, okay. Then whatever I'm adding next. Okay, slip, score, attach, okay? So everything, slip, score, attach, all the things, okay? With craftsmanship, once you attach something, I would go in and kind of perfect. So any slip that's escaping, you can smooth it out using the paintbrush or your fingers. Score marks, you want to make sure those disappear. So you can look at the craftsmanship handout that's at your tables. There's examples of how the range of the slipping and scoring craftsmanship goes. But that's pretty much it.